Evening all, this is a video called Libraries Without Books. Now you may have noticed if you go on Amazon Used and New or you go on eBay looking for books, there's an increasing number of books ending up on there that are ex-library. I've bought quite a few books like that from on there. So for example, The Man in the Iron Mask, that was ex-library. It's still got its library sticker on the back. You can see where it's come from, some library in Liverpool by the look of it. There's this one I got, Green Alternatives to Globalisation, a manifesto. Library sticker still on the side. Looks like it came from some kind of adult learning centre library, that one. And then there's this one, Florinsky, Michael Florinsky, Russia, A History and Interpretation. Classic work of Russian historiography. And this came from some kind of university library, even. Still got all of its stamps on there. And if you go on Amazon Used and New or you go on eBay, there's masses of these ex-library books. Now, why are they ending up on, for sale websites? Well, it's not because people are nicking them and selling them off. It's because the libraries themselves are selling huge amounts of their book stock off. I read that recently that one library in Manchester recently made £12,000 from selling its old library books off. And it's happening all across the country that libraries are selling off their books. And it's happening for a number of reasons, but the end result is that I can see the day coming where, and it's already happening in fact, libraries, your local town library will have a very small number of books available on the shelves, mostly kind of populist fiction, cheap pulp novels and that sort of thing, and that will be about it. And then masses and masses and masses of rows of computers, because that's one of the reasons that the books are being sold off, to make space for computers. And increasingly libraries are becoming internet cafes. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with having some computers in the library. It's a good way of attracting some people into the library, and you can get to use the computers for relatively little money compared to an internet cafe. But that's not the point. It's part of the whole idea that the way you go and search for information now is you just wiki it, or you just go on the internet rather than reading a book or going to a library with books in. Now, of course, you can get information that way, but you can't conduct proper academic research that way, not without reading books. And, the big problem is that when you're reading just an entry on Wikipedia, you're reading a very relatively small chunk of information. What you're not doing is getting the developed argument that comes from a written prose book. So, when it happens in schools, when teachers tell you, oh, just research it all on the internet, well, that is in itself a form of the dumbing down of education, and there's too much of this happening, and it's one of the reasons that our library books are being sold off, including university library books, the sort of academic text that students have to read to get a full understanding of topics. That's one of the reasons it's happening, to make way for computers. But another reason the books are being sold off is in order to get the libraries themselves ready for privatisation. Because it's the fact that having libraries full of academic books and sort of serious research books is a good idea, but those books will be used by a small number of people. And what basically libraries are doing is selling off those kind of books, retaining the populist stuff, the stuff that appeals to a wider number of readers. Your classic pulp fiction, your Harry Potter books and this sort of stuff. You'll still have your populist fiction, and then the library is sold off, and that way it can be sold off as a going concern. With the kind of stuff in there that will pull large numbers of punters in, but it's a massively impoverished library as a result. and that's the other reason that the books are being sold off. So what's the answer to all this then? Well, maybe the process is too far gone now. I mean, I've walked into lots of libraries recently, not the one in Colchester, but lots of libraries elsewhere, where you virtually all you see is computers and pulp fiction, and maybe the process is too far gone. But at the end of the day, what it will result in is large numbers of people who live in small towns being unable to easily, through their library, access proper academic books or a massive range of research books. You'll still get that in the big cities, especially London, of course, or places like Cambridge. But if you just live in an ordinary small town, forget it. You'll enter the library and you'll have rows and rows of kind of rubbish fiction for the dim and computers. And of course, if you've got your own computer, you don't need to use the library to go on the internet for computers. So basically, why would you go there? And that's the problem. What's the solution to it? Well, I'm afraid the only solution to it is government intervention. The government must step in and must ban libraries from just selling off their stock en masse. I can't see that happening, unfortunately. Very difficult to do it. They'd have to basically tell local authorities to stop it. And as for universities, well, they'd privatise the universities basically, so the universities will just show two fingers to them. Very difficult to stop the universities selling off their book reserves. As for the universities, one of the saddest things about the universities is it's not just the libraries that are shedding books. A very, very, very long time ago, when I lived in Leicester, I used to go regularly to Leicester University bookshop, massive university bookshop, and you could get all manner of history books there. You walk into Leicester University bookshop now and it's been put in a tiny, tiny room, and it's got a very, very small, narrow range of books in there. So it's the university bookshops as well that are scarce of books. What do the students do? Well, I hope that they buy the books on Amazon Used and New and eBay. My fear is that they just use the internet. And God knows what their work is like as a result. Anyway, thanks for listening.